You're listening to This Week in Real Estate with your host, Rob Golfi. Brought to you by the Golfi Team at RE/MAX Escarpment, featuring Conrad Zarini, broker-owner of RE/MAX Escarpment Realty Inc., and Brian Hogben, owner of Mission 35 Mortgages. Let's hear what's going on in real estate this week.
Hey guys, what's happening?
Hey.
Last week, I was on here and I have this little camera view that I was looking at, and it's far away. Did it sound like I was yelling into the microphone when I was talking to you guys? Are you guys? Conrad's not saying anything because he's saying.
I was scared last time.
He goes, "Why is he yelling at me? Why is he yelling at me?" That's crazy. So I've got a crazy story to tell you. So there's this lady. She calls me up and says, "Hey, Rob, I regret not buying the house that you showed me." And it was in Niagara. I was in Fonthill. And she goes, you guys, you showed me everything. You told me about, the issues, and you told me about the positives and negatives and everything about the property. And then we went to see this other property, and the agent there convinced us not to buy the property you had listed. And she convinced me to buy the property she had listed. Now, the property that she had listed had, it was sold a month or two prior, and the deal didn't come together. It was, there was $100,000 deposit, and the people backed away from closing the deal. And I think they're still trying to sue for that $100,000 deposit, but I'll get to you in a second about that. So now she buys this property. She moves in. Here's the issues on this property. The listing says septic, but it's a holding tank. It's a rural property. It says it has a 6-car garage, but there is no 6-car garage. Okay, how do you miss a 6-car garage?
How do you miss that? That's
so how do you miss? So here's the story in the 6-car garage. The 6-car garage is so close to the barn on the property, and the property line is between the garage and the barn. So it's the neighbor's property.
Jeez.
See how that it could like you see this 6-car garage, but there's nothing else around it. There's not and it's beside the barn, so you assume it's part of the property. And so they move in, and they're thinking, and the listing does say 6-car garage, right? So so when they move in, the neighbor goes, hey, what are you doing? This is my garage. Get your shit out of here. So anyway, that's that. Tons of issues with the plumbing. There's 2 additional cottages on the property. They couldn't get into them because they were rented, and so they couldn't see them to see what's inside. Well, they're just big sheds. They're not. There's no kitchen, nothing in there.
Who was renting them?
This is a disaster.
Oh man.
They did get a home inspection report from the previous people, but now she's starting to wonder if it is. If all the issues were in there. She gave the home inspection report. It says it's 2 acres. It's not 2 acres. And the listing is agriculture. So when the agent submitted the listing to the mortgage people, she changed the listing to say residential, because agricultural properties are harder to get financing. Not only that, this is it's not on a municipal road. It's like a private road. That's even tougher.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The other big thing, the shoreline erosion is so bad that they're closing that private road. They're shutting it down. They're shutting it down. So now she has 0 access to her property. That's going to start happening within the next few months.
Wow.
And so the city, the township or whatever, knows about this. With the homeowner, they had a discussion about it prior, like maybe 6 months, a year ago, before this house went up for sale. So this lady's going through all this crap, and the previous buyer found this out during the time when they were waiting to close the deal. They went in firm, and then they found out all this stuff. So they're trying to get their deposit back. Conrad, is this lady, will errors and omissions cover this agent? Or is she?
Well, on some of the issues, yeah, because she found out after closing, right? If she would have found out before closing, she'd be into some, serious issue.
We're talking the agent knew about this.
So you're saying that when does it slay into like this?
So the first deal didn't close because of these issues. Because
the second person, it's not closed yet either.
No, it's closed. They're closed. They're living there.
Yeah. So when did they discover all this issue? Like after it closed?
The second buyer.
Yeah, after it closed, right? They found
out. It's closed. They're in there. Yeah. The second buyer and the owner is gone. They've moved.
They're going to be, especially the shoreline protection. There has been precedent on that one that if they found out after the air emissions, rather the title insurance does cover things like that. Yeah. So some of the stuff.
No, they called titles insurance,
and they said no.
No, titles insurance didn't cover them, because the homeowner knew about the closure of the road that was going to happen.
Oh, the pre-existing.
Yeah, the pre-existing homeowner. Now, did the agent know about that? Not sure. But
wouldn't the listing agent know about that? Because if the deal fell apart from the first one, because of that, they would know about it, right?
Well, and then she sold it to somebody else. So, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I know they're in the process. And not only that, they're in connection with the agent previously that brought the offer in. This agent double-ended this deal too.
Oh, well, this is a $50,000 RICO fine if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, for sure.
But Blizzard though, look, I know Blizzard.
How'd you know that? How did you know it was that street? Oh, I told you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, I sent you the listing. I sent you the listing.
I'm gonna tell you something. If anybody drives on Blizzard and it tops and turns and it's very rough to begin with. Like I don't even think it's safe to drive anyway.
No kidding.
Some of that are kind of disintegrated. So and taken, that bit washed away. So yeah, I don't, I don't doubt it. Like and there was a lot of physicality there that they would have known going into the place, right?
I do feel that the previous homeowner, is liable for knowing about the closure of the road, and I probably think that he didn't say that to his agent, but the other stuff. I think the agent, there's a lot of liability there with the agent. And you know what, and what I'm bringing this at, what I'm coming down to is this agent doesn't know what septic or holding tank is and cistern and wells and everything. This is a Toronto agent that listed a property in a rural area. Now, there's no rule in Toronto.
No,
there's none. Now, and this shows me that if you're like if you don't know rule, you better give that to somebody that knows. Yeah, if you don't know shoreline, you don't know that. I'm telling you, people depend on experts. This is what makes our industry bad.
Yeah. Well, and especially with the changing of the zoning, that whole agricultural to residential, like if that gets squeaked by in a bank, they're going to be absolutely screwed at a refinance, renewal, things like that, because when you go to appraise it, it's going to show agricultural, and you're absolutely right. The financing laws are different. So they're setting up horrific expectations for.
They're pushing it down. Pushing it down, right? The other thing is the highest per capita complaints with RICO and the highest per capita cases, common law cases, are rural septic, all that kind of stuff, riparian rights. It's a high. That's most of the cases fall into that bucket. So you better know what you're doing, because that's a very sophisticated part of our business. Definitely.
And I advocate that, I'm telling you, I get it. People are crossing borders. We're talking real estate borders, like real estate board borders, and I get it. They don't want to lose that making that fee. They got a buyer, and even though they're going to a different area, they want to sell them something. And I don't think they're really doing them any justice, because they try to sell them something so fast because they don't want to drive down that Queen Elizabeth way again in all that traffic. And so now I would assume this buyer that's living in this place now is going to be kind of have to talk to the neighbor and say, hey, listen, can I have a right of way to drive through to my property soon?
Oh, yeah, they're gonna have to negotiate something. Yeah, but they're putting a bad spot. But you know what? I'll tell you something. Cases like that, they go to common. You know, if they get, we've seen them. I've seen them where other listing agents have done very similar things to our buyers. Yeah, it gets settled, and it's huge settlements, 300,000-400,000. It's mammoth.
Is that right? Yeah.
Oh, it's
and
mammoth.
then
It takes time, but it's mammoth settlements.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, I think definitely the previous homeowners is got a lot of liability there. But
yeah,
how long do you think a case like this would last?
5 years.
5 years? 5 years.
5 years.
So in the meantime, the value of this property is just gone right down to nothing.
Yeah, we just settled a windmill case.
I was just talking about that on the radio about windmill.
It was 9 years in the making, and it just got settled now. And the thing is, the buyer buyer didn't win, and the buyer had to pay court costs.
Ooh. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the buyer, they complained. But going back to your point, a little fast fact, and I just talked about it a couple of weeks ago on my last market update. The out of town buyer representation has shrunken by about, I would say, close to 40%. In the height of the market in 2020, we had the most 45% of buyers were being represented by non-member outside agents, and it's down to 29%.
Wow. Now, why do you think that is? Is it now? Do you think it's just because people are getting smarter and they're understanding that their agent is just not informative or knowledgeable of the outside area, like the area that they're buying in?
The word's getting out that these guys, like you said, it's one and done. Like the badge of honor, less trips over the bridge. You're so right. I don't want to do this. Then a lot of them are telling their clients, go look around. Don't tell them you're working with an agent. When you find something, I'll swoop in, which is really terrible, because then that realtor doesn't even get the notion of the market. Probably the client's probably knows the market better than he or she, the Toronto realtor, does. And and I think too, the consumer is getting savvy and looking for local expertise, because they're just not getting it. The market before, the increases in the value, healed all. But now when you're, now the value conscious consumer is out, and, you got to buy right, and you got to buy strategic and all that. So they're going to look at a local agent. Definitely.
Brian, have you ever seen, like, I mean, like something like that ever happen? Somebody changes something like that. Like, I guess, will it slip through? Like, does it get slipped through sometimes?
Well, on a purchase, you know what? Like, it's because on our due diligence, right, we're taking the MLS as gospel, right? Like, if an MLS comes in, like
if it says residential, it's residential.
If it says residential, it's residential. Where we've seen differencing ones is where MLS comes in, but an appraisal will always catch it, right? Because the appraisal is actually looking it up and they're seeing it, and then they'll end up checking previous sales on the property as well too. So then if you have a discrepancy, right, then the lender's going to find out about it. And the lenders are getting super savvy on this stuff. Like, it's surprising that this still goes through, because lenders subscribe to Purview, Geo Warehouse, like a lot of these programs, so they can actually pull it as well too. So this is one, surprisingly, that kind of went through, but I think the window of opportunity for this kind of stuff to get done anymore is shrinking greatly with the fintech and financial technology that's getting introduced into the lender's underwriting process. So, and on the renewal, you're screwed. This would never happen on a renewal refinance, because they'll pull the appraisal, they'll see it, and you can't get around that unless, obviously, unless the appraiser's in cahoots or something like that. But it's a disservice for someone when this sort of stuff comes along. It's bad expectations. Like Conrad said, it pushes it down the road. Yeah. And then you're not expecting it. If you thought it happened the first time, you think it's going to happen the next time, but it's not.
I have a funny story about that garage, very similar to the garage. Again, out of town listing agent lists the property. They asked they loved the view, and they backed onto this big pond, and the listing agent said, you must love the fact that, you have breakfast here and you look out of this water. You must just love it. Goes, oh, I love this pond. That's the reason I bought this place, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Anyway, they list the property and they say it's, like water view, like water, and that the pond, in the extra remarks, enjoy your, like, whatever, like, I don't know what it was.
Enjoy drinking coffee, overlooking the pond, all that kind of stuff
pond,
on your own personal pond.
Exactly, all that kind of stuff. And then what happens is it comes out, it's not their pond. It's the back neighbor's pond. Anyway, and this all came out in Discovery because they were trying to sue the seller because the seller, the listing agent was adamant that the seller said it was his pond, and that's where he got the information. And then the seller said, no, you asked me if I like this pond, and I love having this pond behind me. Yeah, and I answered those questions. You never asked me if it was my pond.
You never asked.
No kidding. Hey, just the stuff that we go through in this
it's awesome. It's
one last thing. Has lawsuits picked up because of the market changed the way it is?
100%. And yeah, it has. And those timelines I'm talking about are not, we saw something where a buyer got a judgment around $300,000 because they pulled out of a deal. The place sold for $300,000 less. Then they got served with a judgment. And then about 3 weeks later, after the judgment was sent, the seller approached the buyer and said, hey, let's negotiate this and blah, blah, blah. And they negotiated for like a very, probably they go like 20% of the 300,000.
Wow.
And the reason the seller was so anxious to settle, because their lawyer had said it's going to be a 5-year wait. Wow. So they said, you know what, see if you can do something now, strike while the iron's hot. And when now it's recent, right? So yeah, it's 5 years. No question.
No kidding. Well, guys, listen, I appreciate you being on. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. And thanks. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Absolutely.
Thanks, Rob.